Being an African-born American, I spent quite a bit of time in the UK, having family who moved from Zimbabwe or from South Africa to the UK and essentially made a life for themselves there. So this is a place that I've always had an affinity for. I've always related to the United Kingdom. I've always had some sort of a family connection there. And so seeing what has become of this place in the last maybe 10, 15, 20 years has been absolutely devastating. The UK has lost their damn minds. And I'm not talking about the regular people. I'm talking about the entire system. I'm talking about their version of this woke revolution, right? Which obviously has to be carried out by those who are propagandized, those who are brainwashed, specifically the white liberals who continue to perpetuate this ideology. But nevertheless, I would have never imagined that we would get to a place where stories like this exist. And though I don't live in the UK, I still feel that we are all at some level global citizens. And therefore, if we don't highlight these stories everywhere and use them as cautionary tales, then we will likely find ourselves in the very same place. It's easy to say that's just some shit going on that side of the pond. That would never happen to us. But guess what? That's what they thought when they saw it happen in America, and that's exactly what the hell happened. So that being said, let's get into this video right here. I'm not going to give too much context on the story. I want y'all to hear it in real time, just like I hear it in real time, and we'll have a real life response. So sit back. I was going to say enjoy. I don't know if you can necessarily enjoy this one, but brace yourself. Let's get into it.
And every single part of this story could be confirmed, I was livid. How could this not cause a worldwide outcry? How could nobody be in the streets demanding justice from the UK government for this disgusting, abhorrent act and abuse of justice, if you could even use that word in this situation? For those of you who are unaware of what I'm talking about, there was a call made to police in South Yorkshire of a young girl screaming. They showed up to the location of the screams, and there they found two 13-year-old girls completely wasted, drunk off their asses, who were barely clothed. They were basically completely naked, and they were in a home with 7 Pakistani men. Obviously, you would think that the police would arrest these men for sexually abusing these girls, for giving them alcohol.
Yeah, I already know where this one's going. I've done quite a bit of research into some of the, specific cases within the UK, the byproducts of this woke ideology, this woke cult per se. And, some of these stories are nothing short of absolute evil. Simple as that. I mean, you got stories of people who are going to prison for maybe sharing a meme. I'm not even talking about creating the damn meme, sharing conservative memes, right? For people using certain words or quote unquote slurs because they're offensive. Yet there are literal child rapists walking the streets. Well, of course, they are people of color. Therefore, it is systemic racism that has led them to be these rapists, right? The only reason that they actually assault anybody is because the system of white supremacy. It's the exact same bullshit ideology that we bit into, or not all of us necessarily. And obviously, as we saw in the last election, not most of us. But many of us were compliant as far as being silent. We're afraid to get canceled, afraid of losing our jobs, afraid of losing our children in some cases. But nevertheless, this is the exact same mental virus that is taking place. So y'all heard the first part of that story. These 13-year-old girls are completely wasted, and they're found in a home or a room or whatever it may be with these older Pakistani men. Okay.
Alcohol underage, for who knows what. We have no idea what was happening to these poor girls, but they didn't. Not only did they not arrest the men, no. They arrested the 13-year-old girl who was screaming.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't ready for that part. For anybody who is still supporting these sorts of governments, these globalists, the cabal per se, you actually deserve what's coming to you. If you have the inability or the unwillingness to think for yourself, if you're so overcome with your own bitterness, resentment, hatred, but you disguise it in this thing of tolerance, acceptance, diversity, right? One of the biggest lies that was ever sold to us. Diversity is our strength. What you guys have is not diversity. What you guys have is coercion, manipulation. What you guys have is bullying. That's not diversity, because everybody thinks the same. They're just in different skins, in essence, right? On some Fortnite-ish. The 13-year-old girls are being arrested. I'm sorry, I'm going to let this play out. I know she's telling the story. Trust me, I don't have to double down. I get it. But we're starting off the morning like this. This is my first video this morning. And yeah, it's definitely doing its job to wake me the hell up more than this caffeinated tea is. So
for her life because she was drunk and disorderly. Unfortunately, this is nothing new
Shocking,
to the
isn't
UK.
it?
There has been severe national outcry all over due to the fact that the police knew for a very long time of different grooming gangs from different refugee groups, and they swept it under the rug because they didn't want to be seen as racist. This is just one in many scandals.
That is going to be the death of y'all. The Anglo-Saxon, the Aryan, the white folks. I read a quote somewhere, and it was one of the most accurate quotes to define what's going on right now. It said, while white people, quote unquote, whatever that means, right? European, and even in that there's complexities. But anyway, let's just use that as an umbrella term. White people are so busy trying to teach their kids not to see color while everybody else is teaching them to see theirs. Let me run that back one more time. White folks are so busy trying to teach their kids not to see color while everybody else is teaching theirs to see white folks, and more specifically to see them as the target, to see them as the problem. It is, I believe, Dr. Gad said, he calls it, self-unaliving empathy. I can't use that word on YouTube, but self-unaliving, you put two and two together, empathy, or toxic empathy, I guess you would say, where they feign that they're doing these things out of a sense of compassion, out of care for their fellow brother and sister, when in truth, what you're doing is setting yourself up for absolute destruction. There's a story of the scorpion and the frog, and you have a scorpion who is trying to cross a pond. And he asked the frog, hey, Mr. Frog, can you help me to cross the pond? And the frog says, I don't know. You're a scorpion. I don't think I can trust you. And the scorpion says, come on, I need to cross the pond. Please have some sympathy. And the frog says, I don't know. You're a scorpion. This might be dangerous. Scorpion says, please have some compassion. Help me across the pond. Frog finally gives in. Fine. Swims over. Scorpion jumps on his back, and they are now on their way across the pond. All of a sudden, bam, Scorpion stings the frog, injects it with poison, and all of a sudden the frog begins to die. And in its last breath, the frog says, why did you do this? And the scorpion says, I couldn't help myself. I'm a scorpion. It's what I do. That exact same phenomenon is what we're seeing here. There are individuals who come from societies, cultures, etc., that do not have the ability to assimilate. They don't. And I know there's folks who watch me who are likely, who grew up in Islam or are Muslim, etc. And I'm not looking to be offensive and to, not get into the nuances of this conversation, but there's a reality that is a faith, if you really truly read its doctrine, that says that we cannot blend with anybody else. We cannot accept anybody else. And its job is to create Sharia everywhere it goes. It's to inject itself into every single other society. So when they move in, they're not looking to assimilate with you. They're not looking to become a part of what you are. They could give a damn about that. Their purpose is to make you what they are. That's the whole game. And so when you have these individuals coming into these countries and, these are people whose faith is, look, you could say this about a lot of religions, right? You can go in and say, well, Christianity is a blood cult, etc. But this is a religion where its founder in Muhammad had a 9-year-old bride. That's the facts. Read it for yourself. Read the Quran for yourself. And there are a host of other things about, how to treat those who are not of the faith, the infidels, these are the facts. You could be pissed off all you want. These are the facts. So when you have these different cultures, and it's not just them, we have the same problem in the United States where you have people from South America, these, individuals coming from not just, good Mexican families who are trying to come in. There are gang members. There are people who have malice intentions. There are those who are trying to milk a system. And we have the same thing within the country itself. So there are already individuals within our own nucleus. It's like the social media socialists, the comment section communists who are doing the exact same thing, but from within. So we already got that internal problem to deal with. The last thing we need is to import it into the country. And that's for everybody. So, yeah. Let us continue.
From the police over there, they have been known to arrest people over offensive social media posts. They'll ignore things such as honor killings because they say it's a cultural issue, so they don't want to involve themselves. It's absolutely disgusting, and things need to change, and they need to change now.
Well done to that young woman. It's great to see people like that call it out. The stories from England are disgusting.
I'm gonna stop that right there because I don't know if I can have that music played in the background, but shout out to this dude for sharing this story. So yes, or shout out to her for sharing the story and then him for doing his reaction to the story. I'm reacting to a reaction of the story. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be the death, y'all, of all of us. This quasi-empathy, your fear of being called a racist. You know how many times I get called a sellout in a day? How many times I get called out of my name, a Tom, a this, or that? And it's at a point where it's water on my back. It means literally nothing. I could care less because I understand that this is coming from individuals who are looking to shame me into silence, right? That's all it is. It's all talk. They call you a racist because they don't want you to express the truth. They don't want you shining a light on who they are and what they're doing, right? They don't want to see their own darkness. They don't want to see their own vile nature, in essence, the things that they've given themselves over to. They don't want to see it, so they will continue to project it. They will continue to project their envy, their bitterness, etc. Because a lot of this is envy. I was having this conversation with my girl last night. And I was saying, communism and socialism, quote unquote, which is nothing more than a gateway to communism, they are the religions or the political associations of the envious and jealous. It's the type of conversations we have, right? I said, that's all that is. This is about jealousy and envy. When you believe that everybody should have the exact same outcome as you, even though you put in no work and they put in all the work, they took every risk and you took no risk, or you took little risk, right? You as the barista should make as much as the founder of the coffee company because it's fair. No, it's not fair. It's the fact that you're envious of what somebody else has, and instead of making the sacrifice necessary to get what they have, you want to take it from them. Right? Eat the rich. And we have been conditioned and programmed into hating rich people, not understanding that, you can actually create a pathway to become one if that's what you desire, truly. For many, it's not what they desire, but you desire to have financial freedom, to have those outcomes. And some people, because they believe so little in themselves, they have such a low self-esteem and self-worth, they will get into a socialist mentality. But I know that's a little bit of a digression, but it ties back into the full circle point that I'm making here, which is you have to continue to tell the truth. There's some of these conversations that are not just uncomfortable, but again, may very well get you backlash. You may be called a racist. You may be called every name in the damn book. This is why people are lashing out. Y'all heard that story of the woman who called the little boy, the 5-year-old boy, the N-word with a hard R. It's called fatigue. Fatigue is real. People are getting fatigued of that ghetto ass mentality. They're getting tired of it. People are getting tired of, people coming into their countries uninvited and they have to pretend like, oh, it's all good when they're being violated by these people. I'm not saying all. Again, I'm a dude who was born in an African country. And as a kid, I had the opportunity to move in America and become a citizen, right? We went through the process, however. That's why I'm such a big believer in the process. Go through the process. It might be 10 years. It's what it was. It was 10 years for us. And I had to make sure to follow certain rules and to live a certain way. And, by the grace of God, in most cases, I didn't get caught up when I was doing dirt. I'm thankful for that. But I learned at a certain point, I can't keep living like this. The outcomes are going to be terrible for me. Even though the world around me is giving me a certain leeway, there's a certain level of black privilege I'm experiencing. Now, I'm going to do a video on that soon. But there's a certain level of black privilege that I'm experiencing that's allowing me to get away with a lot of foolishness. But guess what? Real life ain't going to let me get away with that level of foolishness. Not real life. There are consequences in this life. And when you continue to coddle these people, they don't get to actually experience maybe the barrier that would stop them. Take them to prison so they have consequences they face. You don't do that, they're going to end up somewhere else. They're going to end up on the news because somebody was fatigued and took their life out of fatigue. If you understand what I'm saying. So anyway, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. My folks over there in the entirety of Europe, whether it's UK, within the EU, etc. It's time for y'all to take a real stand and continue to do so. You will have y'all MAGA moment. You will have y'all Trump moment. Trust me. It's inevitable at this point. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 365, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up. You know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises. You get to praising.